Today you join me in sunny Florida, where I am here on vacation, and I wanted to do a little video with this very special custom V-twin bike. Now this bike belongs to my dad, and this is something that we've done a spot on before where I interviewed him, talked all about how this bike came to be. Russell Mitchell, the guy at Exile Cycles who was behind building it, along with my dad speccing out all these parts and everything that there is to it. There's really a lot of history behind this bike, but in that video we didn't really have a chance to ride it very far. So today I just want to take you on a ride here in Florida on this really cool bike and show you what it's like to operate. Now, just briefly, this is a custom motorcycle, so this is not a Harley motor or anything. This is a motor from a company called TPE, Total Performance Engineering, and it's a massive 1850cc V-twin. And you can see here it's got a belt drive connecting the engine to the transmission. So it's got this crazy ankle biter setup, dry clutch that also makes an insane noise. There's some really cool engineering and things going on with this bike. Even the sprocket here in the rear is also the rear brake. So it's a super cool setup. It's a very unique bike. This was built in 2001, and it's really aged a lot better than most of the custom V-twin bikes from that era. Because that's one of the things that Russell Mitchell does with his builds, is he makes them very minimalist, not overstyled, not super loud in their styling and colors. So it's actually a bike that's aged really well. The only thing that I think ages it a little bit are those double pod headlights, but my dad and I were actually just looking at some different headlights for this bike, so that might be something that changes soon. But as interesting as I think all that is, best thing about this is easily what it's like to ride. Now, the interesting parts of what it's like to ride starts immediately when you go to fire it up. It is a carbureted bike, so flipped on the fuel there, you hit these compression releases on the top of the engine, and then your key works like a car key. You actually turn the key to turn over the bike. So you reach under the seat where the key is, grab the throttle with your left, and then it fires up, and you can see the belt there moving at my side. And if you can hear when I pull the clutch, hopefully that's coming through on video, you get a really cool pinging sound from this dry clutch. It's a super cool operation. You can see the cover stop moving there. So super unique bike, but what we really got to do is get it out on the road. Now, something interesting about this motorcycle from the get-go is that the transmission is really smooth. So this bike is an interesting combination of, I wouldn't call it refined because it's a hard-mounted massive V-twin. So it doesn't ride like any other factory bike, and because this is an aggressive motor, it really wants to go. It doesn't just want to maintain speed. But you can also tell that these are really high quality components. So the transmission is very smooth to go into gear, smooth to go through the gears. So it's this funky combination of feeling like a mad science project, but feeling like a mad science project that's put together with some of the best components that you can buy. There's tons of billet aluminum. This is all polished aluminum. This is not chrome. So it's a super interesting bike. But we're in our neighborhood right here. We're gonna get a little outside the neighborhood so we can actually open it up, and then you'll get a feel for what makes this bike epic. Now I'm here on our local highway. Let's open up the taps a bit. Woo! Man, this bike is aggressive. It's insane. You know, it's funny, in a straight line, it's not all that fast, but it's a wild thing to ride. It feels like you're riding a bull. You just hold on for dear life. But it's unbelievably stable. There is so much rotating mass in these huge tires on this bike that it is probably the happiest upright motorcycle I've ever felt. I would not describe this as a comfortable long haul cruiser. My dad has done trips all day, a couple 100 miles on this at a time, and that's tough. This bike is technically a softail, but it's got very little suspension travel in the rear, and it's not designed for comfort. It's designed to be a badass bike, and I love it for that. But yeah, I can't imagine spending all day riding this a couple 100 miles, even though I'd like to, because it is a lot of fun. Something else about this motorcycle that's cool is that there's really not a lot of instrumentation on it, almost none at all. I have an oil pressure gauge here by the air cleaner next to my leg, but otherwise there's no speedo, there's no tack. This bike doesn't even have turn signals. There are a couple buttons that are integrated really slick here into the grips for your high beams, things like that. But this bike is meant to be as minimal as possible. Now, the other crazy thing about this bike is the way that it corners. Because it's got these massive tires, it has a really interesting feeling around the turns. Always takes a little bit of getting used to riding this bike. One of the nice things about it having such fat tires is that it is really stable even at low speeds. Even though this is a long, heavy motorcycle and it's got some pretty weird handling characteristics just because of the crazy way that it's laid out, it's still pretty decent to ride even at low speed just because of how wide and flat those tires are. It feels like it keeps you propped up pretty well. And the drive belt makes this crazy whirring noise. It almost sounds like it has a supercharger on it, which just adds even more to the experience of riding it. Anyways, that's all for this video, and I'll show you one of the scary things on this bike. If you want to leave it running and pull the kickstand out, you have to reach under the belt here to pop out the kickstand. Now, yeah, this is just a impromptu behind the scenes kind of video while I'm here on vacation and I get to do a little bit of riding because it's so hard to ride right now in Colorado. So I'm super happy to be going out on a bike, especially one as cool as this. And let me know what you guys all think in the comments below, as I know custom bikes like these are sometimes a little hit or miss for people just because it's not the kind of thing that you can really go out and just buy, but still makes for a really interesting and fun ride. So that's all for this video, and we'll see you all in the next.